You've been more critical of Labour since you left. Do you feel freer to dissent? And if you're doing it now, why did you not feel able to do it before?
Well, I've always have been fairly free speaking in what I say, and maybe that telling the truth is not a good quality if you want a long political career. Who knows? I would like to think it is, though, especially in mayoral elections where it's a direct mandate. But there's been a lot of changes. The day I went independent was the day that Keir Starmer said, if you have more than one sibling, we will keep you in poverty. And it's just got worse and worse. So I think some of the stuff where there might have been a bit of light at the end of the tunnel when, so we are going to invest 28 billion in dealing with the climate emergency. And, you think, you add it up and you think that's probably not going to solve the problem, but it's a step in the right direction. And then they say, well, actually, we're not going to do that at first and we might not do it ever. So the persistent abandoning of policies and the more egregious erosion of democracy, there is just more to criticise.
How are you finding that playing out on the campaign trail? I know you mentioned an anecdote the other day where one of your campaigners actually got in the door because they said, I'm not Tory and I'm not Labour.
It's overwhelming, actually. There was an older guy stopped me in the street just this weekend. And he says, oh, Jamie, I've donated your campaign. I want rid of the Tories. I don't think the Labour Party are going to do anything. We need people like you. And we're seeing people across the country, sort of independents win, Greens win. The position I'm in is a very, very strong position in the North East. And I think although people want the Tories out of Westminster, then I've not seen anyone excited about, even the Blairites from 90s aren't excited about Labour coming in. They're critical about how cautious they're being. So what I think we will see the direction of travel is more community activity, more people winning in council elections, mayoral elections. There's a lot of people thinking, well, let's just get over the line. General elections on the horizon now. But then after that, well, is the Labour Party actually going to do the things that have to happen? Are we going to see genuine progress in the climate emergency? Are we going to see better public transport? Are we going to see wages raise? Are the millions of people who've been on strike over the last few years going to get their wages even pegged back somewhere towards where they were? What, it's 37% lower than they were in 2008 now. There's a lot of people abandon the Tories, but a lot of their base is people who don't work for a living, have pensions perhaps that are more fixed. That's not the Labour base. The Labour base is working people. And when that goes, or small business owners, very much. And when they're struggling, that's when there's likely to be a huge groundswell of support. And I think a lot of people are looking at not just the next 18 months, but the next 5 years. And that's when it gets really interesting as to what should you be preparing the ground on now. I'm running in the North East, bringing the transport system not only back under public control, but fully integrated, free fares for under 18s, showing that this sort of stuff can be done. We've created thousands of jobs on the things about how we help people who are in poverty. We run a child poverty prevention program right across schools in the North East. And these are things that work and make a difference and are evaluated, and we do it, properly with governance. This isn't sort of lefty campaigning. This is someone in power delivering things. And I think that feeling, did a campaign meeting in Wallsend just this Thursday. Over 100 people, members of the public, just turning up to hear me talk. And time again, people are saying, yeah, we want the Tories out. We're not that keen on the Labour Party. We want a different voice. And in a first-past-the-post system, the way you do that, vote for me in a mayoral election, vote for your community independents, or vote for the Labour candidates who, have a conscience, have a backbone. There's still plenty of good people in the Labour Party. Vote for them.
Let's talk a bit about this North East mayoral campaign. What differentiates you from Kim McGuinness, the Labour candidate?
Well, she can talk about her own track record. If she will talk to you. But a huge amount of it is track record. The left are perhaps sometimes seen as very good at saying what they would like the world to be like. But when you've got someone who's smashed the jobs creation record and they're all backed by our Good Work Pledge, which is the real living wage, not the minimum wage, and trade union terms of conditions and building diverse workforces, all of that's actually happened we're opening a new railway line. The only people in the country, I think there's one in Oakhampton and us, and managed to get that. I've got the best funded devolution deal in England. So you need someone who's going to be able to negotiate with government, not someone who's kind of subject to the party disciplining them, who'll just shut up. Someone who'll actually fight for the North East. And we run climate education in schools. We work directly with local businesses, and they love what we're doing. So that track record is really powerful. But the big thing, I think, when it comes to voting people, there's pretty much everyone in the Labour Party and a large part of the public are outraged at the kind of the injustice of saying a guy who's done the job, local members are not allowed to vote for him. But there's a huge anti-establishment vote. Nobody likes Westminster politics. Tory members I talk to say, yeah, we don't like our party much in Westminster either. And you've got this weird situation where I'm the anti-establishment candidate and the incumbent with a track record. That's pretty powerful.
I want to drill into that, though, obviously, because you say track record, and that Kim McGuinness would be subject to party discipline. Of course, you were a Labour mayor until July. You saying that you were subject to party discipline, or that held you back? Because, as you've said, you've got a great track record as a Labour mayor.
Yeah, I mean, there was a... I don't really want to get into the details of it because it's happened, but for some years they'd been trying, for factional reasons, to block me. So back in January, I got an email from the regional director saying you're only allowed to contact members if you promise you will not run for mayor. I mean, it's been that blatant and that outrageous. And the regional director rang up constituencies before the selection, telling the local party to disinvite me from talking to them. So they've been doing that, and that's just, factionalism out of control. That's all that was. Yeah, but in terms of where the party is, there's a lot of people disillusioned. There's a lot of people excited that they're going to get rid of the Tories. A lot of people wondering what we're actually going to do in power as the Labour Party. Yeah.
Want to talk a bit? We're not going to cut that bit. It was an interesting question. I was asking about. You said like Kim McGuinness should be hamstrung by the fact she was a Labour mayor, but your track record is obviously based on the fact that you were a Labour mayor. Can we have it both ways?
Well, I did what I thought was right and always did. I always represented the people. Worked cross-party because you're elected to represent the people of your region. And as a Metro Mayor, you have in your cabinet automatically the leaders and deputies, in my case, of the local councils, one of whom's Conservative. So you've got to get them to do it. But they're representing people, the same people I represent, and I want good things for them. So I always put doing the right thing above towing the line, being on message, all the rest of it. And they've showed that they won't tolerate that. And so, are we going to see this new wave of Labour people coming in, doing whatever they're told to do, regardless of whether their conscience supports that or not?
Let's talk a bit more about dissension. HS2, you were quite a rare dissenting voice on HS2. How do you feel about scrapping? My preferred position would have been you do HS2, you keep the costs where it should have been, and it goes all the way up to Edinburgh. Now, it was never going past York. They cancelled that leg a couple of years ago. It was going to go to Manchester. Good for the people of Manchester, no good for the people in the North East, which is 140 miles away. Often people in London don't realise how far this is. And so there was zero benefit. But if it was going to be costing an extra 20, 30, the fact that no one knows how much it would have cost, despite the fact that Mr. Sunak was Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Chancellor and Prime Minister, he should have known that. So I didn't call for the scrapping of HS2. What I said was, given that you are cancelling it, and they published that in July, the Infrastructure Projects Commission had said it's undeliverable. I got onto them and said, look, don't take the money back to Treasury, spend it in the North, and was lobbying the Tories and the Transport Minister and Secretary of State to do that. We'll yet to see how much will actually come and which projects actually will get delivered. But it's far, far better than them just saying, no, you're not having anything. Well, they've said they're doing this new Network North, but when you dig into Network North, A, would it benefit the North East at all? And B, it seems to be a cobbled together mess of plans that are either already been constructed, such as the Metro link from Manchester to Manchester Airport, or lines that are already under planning, and there's a load of money in sums that don't actually quite add up. that they say, oh, we've clawed this back. But if you look at the budgets, they haven't at all. So do you actually think Network North is a good deal for the North East?
Chaos in government. Is that a surprise? Is it anything new? I've been dealing with that for years. And when I was elected, Theresa May was Prime Minister. That was only 2019. We had 4 Prime Ministers, 7 Chancellors, God knows how many local government ministers and transport ministers. So they always do this. It's standard. Until it's been through, the budget line's delivered, you shouldn't really count it or be starting to spend on it. But what they have said is that we're getting an extra 1.8 billion. We can actually do quite a lot with that. The things I want to do anyway are fully integrate the transport across the North East. There's whole areas where if you after 6 o'clock you can't get a bus, and that's ruining people's lives. I want to get the buses under public control, massively increase the bus network, because a bad public system is no better than a bad private system. Get it all integrated with the Tyne and Weir Metro, build new metro lines, bring places like Sunderland and Washington together, and get the heavy rail system so you can cross-ticket across it. Now, this happens in other places. It happens in London. But London was never cut, and it's much more subsidised in the North East. But I also want to have a car club that you can use on your same account, and secure bike parking and bike hire everywhere, so that we can get everybody who wants to can get their groceries delivered and get to work or education cheaply, reliably, and without boosting the carbon emissions. And then, if they want to go away for the weekend, they can maybe decide, right, all right, I'll just hire a car from the car club, and then have people that choice to decide not to own a car or not to use their car. You do that, people want to come on board. Every time I talk to people about this, they get it, because every bus takes 50 cars off the road. So if you're a GP on call or a plumber with a van full of tools, you're not stuck in traffic. So it's a win-win for everyone. And that's the sort of thing that makes a big difference. Now, my track record of actually being good with the money and delivering stuff, creating thousands of jobs, it's there. I know how to do this. I'm an engineer by profession. When I was at university in the 90s, I actually wrote a paper on how to get an integrated public transport system. 30 years later, I hope to get the chance to deliver it. But what would that send as a beacon? Would that say, actually, we can be ambitious about our public services, we can be ambitious about infrastructure, and we deliver this, then that's actually the biggest thing that's going to shift the dial in politics.
Let's talk a bit about your other pledges as if you are elected North East Mayor. You've talked a bit about this job creation. Where were those jobs created? Because I think you mentioned at some point in some of your materials that the North East was actually the biggest region for jobs creation. Was it last year, 2022? Yeah.
So inward investment from job creation, not the catchiest title, but this is getting companies to set up in the North East. We were the #1 region in the country last year, beat Manchester, beat London. It doesn't often get mentioned on national politics. There's this image the North East is falling behind. We are left behind, but we're doing it for ourselves, as Annie Lennox said. And that has been bringing tech companies in. Some of these companies paying average wages of 54 grand a year. Helping our local businesses. So one is a local joinery firm, and they were struggling to grow. Our advisors worked with them, said, right, here's a digital tracking system, barcode on every bit of wood, that can put 3 times the jobs through the factory, because then you don't end up with the wrong bit of wood on the wrong shop fitting job. They've recruited more joiners, more apprentices. So there's a whole range of things like that, helping our local businesses. But what we do is we back them all with the Good Work Pledge. And it's written into the contract. And if the jobs aren't created, they don't get any money. So this is things like trade union recognition, paying the real living wage, building a diverse workforce, skills training to turn a job into a career, and good environmental policies. So this is where we use our influence to have these broader effects. 5,377 jobs at the last count, against the government target of 1,500 I should be on now. So smashed that out of the park. And it's made a difference. For the first time ever, the North East is below the national average of unemployment.
And I guess final question, the devolved mayors that currently exist, of whom Andy Burnham says probably the most famous, they're really doing stuff. A lot of them are really making a difference to the lives of the people who live under that mayoralty. And yet you get the feeling that they would not be allowed to run as MPs again under this current Labour Party. Do you think that is an own goal on Labour's part, or do you think that they could run as MPs in the future if they prove themselves in their local regions?
I don't know what decisions the Labour Party is going to make in future, and to be honest, I left the Labour Party so I could run as an independent, and other people are going to have to make those decisions. What I would say is, if the Labour Party tries to control the messaging and what mayors say, it will play badly. Keir Starmer will be less popular than every single mayor in their own region. They should have used me as an asset, but they didn't. That's a done deal now. But there's a cabinet minister told me, says you get elected, you get all excited, and you go into your office and you start pulling on the levers of power. And then 2 years later, you realise the levers aren't connected to anything. They're going to have to deliver stuff through mayors and through local authorities. And so they're going to have to work with people and not say, oh, we don't like the fact that they're saying something different. You know, that Andy Burnham supports PR, that, Jamie Driscoll supported renationalisation of the energy industry. Yeah, it was known goal.